Imagine a seemingly peaceful neighborhood, shattered by a single gunshot. A tragedy that exposes deep-seated tensions and questions about justice in America. That's the heart-wrenching reality at the center of The Perfect Neighbor, a documentary that pulls back the curtain on a senseless killing. But here's where it gets controversial. Could laws meant to protect self-defense actually be fueling racial disparities and enabling deadly conflicts over trivial disputes? Stick around and let's unpack this story together, layer by layer. For the creative team behind The Perfect Neighbor, director Geeta Ganbir, her life partner and producer Nikon Kwantu, and producer Elisa Payne, their collaboration felt almost destined. Before they even crossed paths professionally, they shared a personal bond as parents whose kids attended the same preschool, fostering an early sense of community. It wasn't until later in their friendship that they discovered their shared passion for storytelling. Payne has a track record of producing impactful documentaries, including the Emmy and NAACP Image Award nominated Stamped from the Beginning. Kwantu brings over 20 years of expertise in multimedia, film, and animation production. Ganbir, who honed her skills under the mentorship of directors Sam Pollard and Spike Lee, earned her first Emmy for editing When the Levees Broke, a requiem in 4 acts. United by a desire to amplify overlooked voices, their paths converged through a shared connection to a heartbreaking event that inspired their latest project, The Perfect Neighbor. It all started in June 2023 when Kwantu's relative, social justice activist Takema Robinson, contacted him and Ganbir about the horrifying murder of Ajike A.J. Owens. Owens, a close family friend and devoted mother of 4, lived in a closely knit community in Ocala, Florida. She was gunned down by her neighbor, Susan Lorincz, amid what began as a minor disagreement. Lorintz's irritation over kids playing in a nearby empty field escalated into something unimaginable. This appalling act plunged my family and me into a sea of sorrow and bewilderment, Ganbir recalls. AJ's neighborhood was built on strong ties of support and trust, making it all the more devastating to see how such unity could collapse so disastrously. Motivated to comfort the family and spotlight this unjust death, Ganbir, Kwantu, and Payne traveled to Florida. Notably, Lorincz wasn't immediately taken into custody by local police. The Perfect Neighbor is the kind of film we regret having to create, Payne admits, hinting at the painful necessity of exposing such truths. The documentary is emotionally raw, and watching it stirs up intense feelings. Yet despite the heartache, Geeta's narrative approach shines brilliantly. She meticulously uncovered every facet of our tale. It's a true work of art. Pamela Dias, A.J. Owens's mother Owens's mother, backed the film from the outset to celebrate her daughter's memory and transform pain into purpose. I sense it's my responsibility to keep her spirit alive, she explains, through the film and initiatives like the Standing in the Gap Fund, a family-driven organization that addresses racism-related violence. By providing financial relief and promoting community healing, we've heightened awareness about the crucial need for more empathy, understanding, and precise community action to prevent future tragedies. It's a call for kindness in a world that desperately needs it right now. What unfolds in the documentary, directed by Ganbir and produced by Kwantu, Payne, and Sam Bisbee, who also worked on Daughters. The film relies nearly entirely on police body camera footage to depict the everyday life of a neighborhood that evokes a simpler, almost nostalgic era. The residents truly looked out for each other, with deep connections among families, Dias reflects. Kids grew up playing together, as they should, and family bonds formed the foundation of this special community. Occasionally, the children's play extended onto a vacant lot adjacent to Lorinc's property, which stood out starkly from the rest of the homes. Susan was completely out of sync with the neighborhood vibe, Kwantu notes. Whenever any issue arose, she'd immediately dial the police. Over the years, Lorincz repeatedly contacted authorities about the kids, but officers often sided with the families involved. This led Lorincz to grow more confrontational. ultimately resulting in the fatal shooting of Owens. The Perfect Neighbor offers a fresh, up-close perspective on how bias can poison community harmony. This intimate portrayal comes from extensive body camera recordings and audio, obtained via a Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, request by Owens's family's lawyers. For beginners, FOIA is a federal law allowing anyone to request government records, which here helped reveal how a backyard playtime spat could spiral into murder. There was tons of footage, and it's not always clear what's happening or in what order. Quantu says, you start with everyday scenes that gradually turn unsettling, leaving you wondering, how did we get here? After reviewing it, I thought this has to be turned into a documentary. The team consulted Dias on adapting the material into a film, aiming to amplify awareness of her daughter's death. I asked Pamela if this was something she'd support, and she agreed, Gandbir remembers. Trust built up over time as we collaborated to seek justice for AJ. Dias adds, initially, when Geeta suggested sharing our story through the documentary, I was drowning in grief. The uncertainty was overwhelming, but the idea brought a small comfort, easing some of the weight I carried. It gave me something positive beyond just mourning. Dias stresses that Gandbir prioritized the family's well-being and consent. She checked in regularly, ensuring I was okay and that proceeding was my choice, Dias shares. This mutual respect influenced Dias's involvement. She stepped back from daily decisions, trusting Gandbir's expertise. I had full confidence in Geeta, she says, relying on her to handle things with sensitivity and care. I didn't feel the need to dive into production details. The final product reflects her thoughtful and respectful approach, and I'm grateful she honored our story so delicately. Where is The Perfect Neighbor set? The documentary's footage, pieced together through editing, originates from Ocala, Florida, a place that feels worlds away from urban chaos, but was rocked by this incident. What exactly are Stand Your Ground laws? As the filmmakers worked on The Perfect Neighbor, they stood with Dias in the quest for justice. Ocala, home to Owens and her 4 children, lies just under 2 hours from Sanford, where in 2012, unarmed teenager Trayvon Martin was fatally shot by George Zimmerman. Zimmerman walked free by claiming self-defense, shining a spotlight on Florida's Stand Your Ground law. This policy permits people to use lethal force if they reasonably believe they're in imminent danger, even if they could safely retreat or are outside their own property. For those new to this, think of it as a legal shield for self-protection. But critics argue it can lead to hasty decisions in heated moments, like disputes over kids playing nearby. Such laws exist in various forms across over half the U.S. states, but Florida's version faced intense scrutiny after Zimmerman's 2013 acquittal. A decade on, Owens's death reignited debates about these laws' potential to disproportionately harm Black individuals. Through AJ's memory, we can challenge Stand Your Ground and similar damaging policies, Payne urges. It's clear that on one side of Susan's calls were wonderful people, parents nurturing their kids. But here's where it gets controversial. Do these laws promote fairness, or do they mask biases that allow tragic outcomes? For instance, some argue they empower ordinary citizens in dangerous situations, while others see them as tools that exacerbate racial inequalities. Especially in cases like Trayvon Martin's or A.J. Owens's. What do you think? Should reforms tighten these laws to prevent misuse? Who was Ajiki A.J. Owens? A.J. Owens embodied the ideal of a dedicated mom to 4 children and was a dear friend to our family in Ocala, Florida, Gandbir describes. The film paints her picture through family interviews, photographs, and glimpses of her daily life, showcasing her protective role in the home and community. Loved ones portray her as a vigilant parent who stepped in when her kids mentioned clashes with neighbor Lorincz. At its essence, The Perfect Neighbor captures the vibrancy of a nurturing mother, preserving her warm and enduring legacy. Honoring her means everything, Dias says. AJ always said the world would remember her, and this documentary has made that happen. Her spirit endures, and now everyone knows her name. Does the film depict the shooting of a G.K. Owens? No, there's no visual record of the gun firing. Instead, the documentary reconstructs the events through interviews, 911 call audio, and on-site police body camera videos. Audiences witness the neighborhood setting, hear desperate pleas for assistance, and observe the police and emergency medical responses. Diaz shared her reaction to the first screening. It was both crushing and a clear demonstration of the director's compassion. "I was overwhelmed," she recounts. "Reliving the timeline, my daughter clinging to life, the community's fury, my grandkids' pain, and my own despair. I cried uncontrollably." Yet amidst the agony, Diaz recognized the film's skillful craftsmanship. It's deeply painful to view, but Geeta's storytelling is enchanting. She carefully unraveled every aspect of our narrative. It's a masterpiece. What became of Susan Lorincz? The Perfect Neighbor opens in fall 2022, capturing Lawrence's ongoing complaints to police about noisy kids and litter on the vacant lot next to her house via body camera footage used in the film. These reports built up until June 2, 2023, when Lorincz claimed Owens was trying to force her way in and threatening her. Minutes later, she recorded firing through the door. Despite emergency efforts, Owens succumbed at the hospital. The delay in arresting Lorincz, while authorities assessed if it qualified under Florida's Stand Your Ground law, fueled local outrage. On June 6, 2023, Lorincz was apprehended. She faced charges of manslaughter with a firearm, culpable negligence, battery, and 2 assault counts. In 2024, she was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 25 years in prison. The film debuted at Sundance, where Ganpir won the U.S. Documentary Directing Award. Now, Ganpir, Quantu, and Payne hope to broaden its reach, spotlighting societal attitudes and policies that devastate communities. "My goal is to foster greater insight into these laws' repercussions and push for reforms to avert more needless losses," Ganpir states. DS wishes the film helps viewers grasp the wider implications through its emotional depth, inspiring action in AJ's honor. "I want her memory to bring goodness to others, sparking positive global shifts," she says. A version of this feature originally appeared in issue 21 of Tudum magazine. Related stories: 2025 preview, August 27th, deep dive, October 17, news, October 15, awards, September 29th. And this is the part most people miss. In a society where stand your ground, laws aim to protect, they might inadvertently perpetuate cycles of violence and inequality. Do you believe these policies should be overhauled, or do they serve a vital role in personal safety? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you side with stricter regulations, or do you see them as essential defenses? Let's discuss.